We have finally obtained a quorum. We have Council President Clark, Councilman Taubenberger, Councilman Jones, and Councilman Heenan. Ms. Marconi, will you please read the title of the bill before us today?
Bill number 170017, an ordinance amending section 14-507 of the Philadelphia Code entitled CDO, Central Delaware Riverfront Overlay District, by amending provisions under certain terms and conditions.
Mr. Gregorski, please.
Morning, Chairman Greenlee, members of the Rules Committee. I'm Marty Gregorski, Division Director with the Development Division at the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I'm here to testify on Bill number 170017, which was introduced in the City Council on January 26th of this year by Councilmember Squilla. Bill number 170017 amends the Central Delaware Riverfront Overlay District by changing the width required for river access streets. The river access streets are 8 city streets that, if extended to the river, should be left as open spaces for extending the city's street grid, access to the waterfront, or for the purposes of creating view corridors. The 8 streets are identified as Dickinson Street, Washington Avenue, Christian Street, Race Street, Cowell Hill Street, Spring Garden Street, Frankfurt Avenue, and Columbia Avenue. The Law Department has advised the sponsor and the Commission staff that the river access streets, as extended to the Delaware River, must be the same width as the streets on the other side of Delaware Avenue or Christopher Columbus Boulevard. Additionally, the existing street lines must be extended from their endpoints on the city plan. This could prove problematic because of the large widths of some of these streets. Spring Garden is 100 feet wide, for example, and the city street lines are not necessarily perpendicular to each other. I should read parallel to each other. This would leave an open space requirement of much more than 100 feet if the street lines were extended to the river. Bill number 170017 will allow the development opportunities to those property owners affected by river access streets by allowing a reduction in the open space requirement to only 70 feet and allowing the open space to be placed anywhere within the existing right-of-way of the river access street. 70 feet is large enough to accommodate a fairly wide city street. The Law Department has advised the sponsor and the Commission staff that where the extended river access streets would bifurcate 2 or more properties, the 70-foot width must be divided equally on either side of the extended center line, that is 35 feet on either side. Law has drafted an amendment to this bill that would address this circumstance. I understand that the sponsor is agreeable to this amendment, and I would respectfully request that the committee adopt it. The City Planning Commission, at its meeting of February 21st, 2017, will consider Bill number 170017 with a staff recommendation for approval of the bill as is proposed to be amended, and I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gregorski. Are there any questions for Mr. Gregorski? Okay. Mr. Kelson, you're going to just identify.
Mr. Greenlee, I have no testimony, but good morning. Thank you for convening this, but we are going to offer an amendment that has been discussed with planning, with John Mounlack's office, right, and with Mr. Forkin. Let me introduce why I'm here.
You missed one person there, though, the district council person, sponsor of this legislation.
And I believe the district councilman is aware of it, but I can't confirm that. I'm trying to wait for this. But what this amendment would do is allow for additional curb cut to be provided on the overlay properties, because we're not going to be counting the river access street, which is a required street, as Mr. Gregorski has indicated. And these properties that are subject to development, for example, my client's property, Festival Pier, has 1,100 linear feet of frontage. So you're going to have more than one curb cut to make it effective development. That's what this amendment would propose to do.
Okay, Mr. Gregorski, on the amendment Mr. Kelson's talking about it looks like he's just saying it to you now. So I assume the Planning Commission has not taken a position on that amendment, correct?
They have not. The staff just got this very recently. The idea behind it isn't a problem for the staff. We're taking the whole bill today at the Planning Commission this afternoon, so I can get it back to them in time to make a formal recommendation.
Obviously, the reason we had this so quickly is that Councilman Squilla said we have a little time issue here. But, by the way, I'm sorry, for the record, Councilman Johnson, member of the committee, is also present. All right, is there anyone else here to testify on this bill? Here's what I'd like to do, unless there's any other questions, comments. We'll go into a public meeting, and I'm going to wait just a minute. Hopefully, Councilman Squilla will, I see Councilman Squilla's office is here, because I don't really want to move that second amendment unless the sponsor approves. So, again, if there's no other testimony, That concludes the public hearing. We'll go into a public meeting, and we'll just delay for 1 minute, okay? Okay, this is, this is now the committee, the meeting of the Committee on Rules. Is my understanding that the sponsor of the bill is okay with both of these amendments. So the chair recognizes Councilman Heenan for a proposal on the amendments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I propose that amendments to Bill number 170017 be adopted.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, after that vociferous aye, the amendment the amendments are adopted. Chair again recognizes Councilman Heenan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that Bill number 170017, as amended, be reported out of committee with a favorable recommendation and suspension of the rules is to be heard at our next council session.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. That was much better that time. The bill number 170017, as amended, is reported out of committee favorably with a rule suspension. And that concludes the business of the Rules Committee today. Thank you all very much for your participation.
Thank you very much.